At this time, it is 5:01. I'd like to call this meeting of the Belton Independent School District Board of Trustees to order. A quorum of board members is present. This meeting has been duly called, and a notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. Please rise for a moment of silent prayer or meditation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and honors to the Texas flag. At this time, we'll say our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. You all may be seated. Welcome. We're going to start off our board meeting with Representative Hugh Shine. I believe he is going to do a post-legislative update and a presentation. Thank you, Representative Hugh Shine. We're so glad you're here.
Well, thank you.
You've got some exciting news.
Well, we thank you for the opportunity to join you today, and I'm certainly impressed with where y'all meet. This is a little different than what I was accustomed to before, and I see that you have my friend Ty Taggart on the end, so if y'all need to push him off the stage, you're able to do that. We had two resolutions that I prepared in the House of Representatives on behalf of Belton Independent School District and Belton High School, and I don't know if you have any of those individuals that are here, but one resolution is on behalf of the Belton High School cheerleaders. And I'd like to read the resolutions and present the official resolutions to the board. And this was actually done on the floor of the House of Representatives. We tried to coordinate times when students could come down, but there was too many conflicts. And so we elected to do this at your board meeting. Okay, so Madam Chair, if you want to join me. And I hate to have my back to the folks, but I don't think the microphone's going to work otherwise. But that's all right. We'll make it work if you'll come up and join. Okay? I'll just speak louder. Again, this resolution was passed on the floor of the House of Representatives on behalf of the Belton High School cheerleading squad. And on behalf of the cheerleading squad, achieved great distinction by winning its division at the 2019 National Cheerleaders Association High School Nationals held January the 26th and the 27th in Dallas. Delivering an impressive performance in its first ever appearance at Nationals, Belton captured the championship title in large co-ed intermediate high school competition. The team incurred no deductions over the course of the two-day event, earning a raw score of 97 and finishing with preliminary and final event scores of 24.25 and 97.45. And whereas the Belton cheerleader qualified for the NCAA Nationals after receiving superior ribbons in the chant and band chant and cheer categories at an NCAA camp in July last year, through countless hours of hard work and unwavering commitment to excellence, the members of the Belton cheerleading squad had proven themselves to be among the best in the nation. And they are the source of tremendous pride, Tiger pride, to their school and the community. So therefore be it resolved that the Texas House of Representatives on the 86th legislative session congratulate the Belton High School cheerleading squad on winning its division at the 2019 National Cheerleaders Association High School Nationals and extend to the team's members, coaches, and staff best wishes for the future, that the official copy of this resolution was prepared for the team as an expression of the high regard by the Texas House of Representatives. Signed by the Speaker of the House and myself as your state representative. And I'd like to make that presentation to you right now. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ready? 1, 2. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Can I have a second? Okay. Y'all do some great things in the school, and I'm very pleased to be able to have resolutions passed on behalf of the students, the coaches, the staff. So the Magic Bells, great organization. So Mr. Taggart, the Belton High School Magic Bells performed in the 130th Rose Bowl Parade in Pasadena, California on January the 1st, 2019. And this achievement is indeed worthy of special recognition. The team's 28 dancers arrived in Los Angeles on December the 28th to prepare for the New Year festivities. Following a rigorous long weekend of rehearsals, and their hard work paid off as they danced in the parade's opening number alongside the Grand Marshal, entertainer Jordan Fisher, and the boys of, I hope I pronounced this correct, Temecula? Help me. Okay, the Magic Bells performance dazzled parade attendees as well as those tuning in from across the country. In addition to their participation in the Rose Parade, the Magic Bells have garnered numerous accolades at the national level. The team is a 4-time national championship competitor, and in March of 2018, it was crowned the medium-class national champion team at the American Dance Drill Team National International Championship. Benefiting from the direction of Rachel Hill and Marla Moore, the Magic Bells have demonstrated outstanding talent and commitment to excellence, and they are a source of great pride, tiger pride, to their families, the school, and the community. So therefore, let it be resolved that the House of Representatives of the 86th Legislative Session honor the Belton High School Magic Bells for their performance in 2019 Rose Parade and extend to them the sincere best wishes for the future. That an official copy of this resolution was prepared, signed by the Speaker of the House of Representatives and myself, and I make that presentation to you, Ty. Congratulations. And congratulations to the Magic Bells. All right.
Okay. Ready? Got it. Thank you.
And I hope to present more of these in the future. Thank you all very much for allowing me to join you.
Thank you so much.
You're certainly welcome. Y'all have a great day. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda is a budget update by Ms. Jennifer Lane.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm before you to do a budget update. We are in some exciting times. As usual, I start the presentation with our budget priorities, primarily focused around academics for our students. And the other priorities are to help us all successfully educate our students. The biggest result from House Bill 3 is that Belton ISD's M&O tax rate is going to be decreased. It's going to be lowered. Under the House Bill 3 passage, the Belton ISD tax rate will be reduced to $1.06, a little over $1.06, which is about an 8.69% decrease, or in terms of raw dollars, a 10-cent decrease over the current tax rate. I thought it would be beneficial to show a comparison of rates across Texas. In 2008, the board had the prowess to make a decision to call for a tax ratification election to generate some additional revenue. As a result, Belton's tax rate went to $1.17. A lot of districts who had not called for a TRE, they were still at $1.04, and under House Bill 3, their M&O rate would drop to 97 cents. So the tax rate is made up of two components. There is a Tier 1 rate, which is the basic entitlement provision to provide an education for students. This is made up of some programmatic funding that the state looks at, including funding for special ed, bilingual, CTE, and some state comp funding. And then there is the 93-cent tax rate that is the compressed rate under House Bill 3. That's what most districts in the state of Texas are going to be moving to. So that's the first tier. The second tier, or the second component of the tax rate, is Tier 2 funding. And in this component, there are two categorical levels that are going to be compressed. I don't want to go into too much detail, but Tier 2 is considered enrichment funding or guaranteed level of funding. And you may have heard the term guaranteed yield thrown around. And the first component of the Tier 2 funding, which is the golden pennies, that was based on the Austin ISD yield. That changed under House Bill 3. And then you have the second component, which is the copper penny, and that's where we saw a lot of compression, and that's where school districts who had already went out for a TRE were able to generate a little bit more revenue under the copper pennies. The formula for compression of the copper pennies is very complex, but the overall gist of that is, in the end, we were able to retain a portion of our increased tax rate from the TRE under House Bill 3. And so as you can see here, that because we'd already passed a TRE, our tax rate is still 9.8 cents higher than a district that was at $1.04. However, that tax decrease and percentage decrease to Belton is higher. So you can, as I mentioned earlier, we're at 8.69% of a decrease versus a district that was at $1.04. They're recognizing a 6.73% decrease, and that's 7 cents compared to a little over 10 cents. But so what does this mean for our taxpayers? It means that our taxpayers are receiving a greater benefit due to House Bill 3, due to the tax compression. But on the flip side, that does mean that we're going to generate a little bit less percentage-wise in terms of our tax collection than some other districts. But we're still in a favorable position, and our taxpayers are going to realize a greater increase in terms of benefit from the tax compression under House Bill 3. And
let me say a couple of things about
Okay.
that. This is, if you'll go back a slide, this is only on the M&O side and not the INS side. And so we'll be talking about that at future meetings. That's one thing to point out. The other thing to point out is that we had a tax ratification election back in 2008, raising our tax rate to $1.17. That was voter approved, with the priority of, we had about 3 priorities, as I recall, in 2008, and that was to maintain competitive salaries for our staff, to continue to provide quality programs as our budgets got tighter, so that we could maintain the great things we were doing with our students. And then the third one was for growth, and specifically to be able to purchase property as the district grew. And so that was the reason for that tax ratification election back in 2008. And that was a very good move on the district's part. Really has kept us competitive with our staffing and allowed us to thrive in spite of the $5 million that we were cut by the legislature in 2011. Just a little historical information.
So even with our decreased M&O tax rate, we still anticipate generating about $2.5 million more in property tax revenue because our rates, our preliminary values increase at a really high level. So you may recall that in April, we received preliminary values, and we talked about that. They came in at over 15% more than our certified values in last July, and that was definitely a significant increase that was higher than we anticipated. But based on our preliminary freeze-adjusted values of about $3.3 billion and $500 million in frozen values, we are anticipating about $38.8 million in local tax revenue. Again, certified values will be received in July, so All of this information is subject to change based on what those certified values look like. So we're greatly anticipating that information from the appraisal district. We've worked really long and hard since the compromise of House Bill 3 was passed, and we've put together some revenue estimates, and they are just that, estimates. These numbers will definitely change as we work to refine the budget, but with the $38.8 million in local tax revenue coupled with about $900,000 that we're estimating in some other local revenue, we're anticipating about $39.7 million in M&O local revenue. And on the state side, we have worked with several professional state organizations to help us refine our state funding number. We are actually going to attend a session tomorrow, and I will attend one on Wednesday to just try to make sure that we are doing our due diligence in estimating the FSP number that we're using to estimate our revenue, as well as the amount that we have to use to project our mandated salary increases, and I'll talk about that a little later. But right now, we are at about $71 million in revenue from the state, coupled with about $4.4 million in some other revenue. That brings our state M&O revenue to about $75.4 million. And then we anticipate about $2.4 million in some other federal revenue, which brings our estimated local revenue to $117.5 million. I want to point out that our budget for 18-19 is around $100 million for revenue, so this is a over 17% increase for us. That is very, very significant. Again, these numbers are subject to change as we continue to refine everything that we're doing. So we are still in the process of itemizing our expenses, making sure that we have everything in the proper categories, making sure that we're capturing everything we need. But we've worked over the last several months to get this done, and we've estimated that our M&O expenses in categories other than personnel should come in at about $21 million, with most of that being in contracted services at about $9.5 million, $5.5 million for supplies, some other operating costs of $3.3 million, and we have a couple of leases or a few leases for buses and technology that we pay out of M&O, our local budget, at about $850,000, and then we are going to dedicate some dollars to some capital outlay items, and that's to the tune of about $1.85 million. So that $21 million would represent about 19% of the total budget, and I'm going to go over the total budget in just a few slides. But remember, these numbers are subject to change. We've also done some work on the personnel side. This is the largest component of our budget, and I'll go into more detail about the House Bill 3 requirements, but at first glance, just wanted to share with you what we've done. We took our current payroll obligation of about $66.5 million. We are anticipating about $3.8 million in additional positions, salary increases of about $4.7 million, of which most of this is based on House Bill 3 methodology. Our benefits of about $14 million, and then some other personnel costs of about $1 million, bringing us to an estimated payroll budget of about $90 million. The estimated payroll budget of $90 million is about a little over 81% of the total budget. Compared to, in 18-19, personnel is about 79.69%. So as you can see, we're still keeping our payroll costs in the similar range, in the same range. We're not restructuring or re-engineering the budget. We are keeping our categorical spending pretty stable, and we are definitely trying to make sure that we remain at an acceptable level with our payroll costs. We don't want those to get out of hand. These amounts are subject to change.
Mm-hmm. So this increase couldn't have come at a better time for us because of the growth of the school district, the opening of new schools, We'll be opening Charter Oak Elementary in the fall. We're also adding some new positions that will help us transition to the new high school. We have some new counseling positions, some new assistant principal positions. We're trying to reduce the counseling ratios per student to counselor ratios in the district, and so this is a lot of money. It is a really good time for us because of the growth of the school district and the plans to move towards the opening of Lake Belton High School. It's a mixture, so Todd may speak to that more later, and he is here. Where is he? There he is. You could speak to that, but it's a mixture of growth for increased student enrollment. It addresses counselor to student ratios. It addresses assistant principals at the high school. We have some assistant principals in there who will be moving from Belton High School to Lake Belton High School when it opens. We have some special education positions in there to manage our growing special education program. And I didn't hear what you said, Todd.
Charter
And
Oak.
Charter Oak Elementary. And so it's a combination. We have the new high school principal's salary in there as well. Anything else you want me to mention there, Todd? Okay, yeah.
You know, Jennifer, you keep using the word anticipate. I think that's really the word we need to focus on. We're anticipating a lot of different things with this particular House bill. It would be interesting and it will be rewarding at the end once you all sort out all the details. So I'm anticipating.
We are too. Since one of the most talked about components of House Bill 3 is the compensation requirement, I just wanted to briefly highlight what that requirement is about. The requirement is pretty flexible, and it does give districts an opportunity to implement the intent of the bill in different ways, depending on, you know, the structure and the needs of the school district. But the bill specifically states that in a year that the basic allotment increases, which it did under House Bill 3, and that basically means we're receiving more money, the district must spend 30% of the increase in revenue per ADA. So we have to calculate the revenue per ADA and determine the amount of the increase. And that 30% must be spent on increases for full-time employees other than administrators. And then of that 30%, 75% must be specifically spent on compensation increases for classroom teachers, full-time classroom teachers, nurses, librarians, and counselors. And there has to be a priority in terms of differentiating compensation for classroom teachers with more than 5 years of experience. And the remaining 25% of the 30% may then be used on district compensation increases for employees other than administrators or that are not administrators. One area that there are a couple of things that are still being, the tweaks are being worked out, but one specific is the term administrator. We're still awaiting some guidance on this rule, but we're moving forward based on some internal criteria that we've developed in classifying administrators based on some previous items that we have to report to TEA on. And this is significant, or this is interesting, because not every district classifies administrators the same way due to the differences in positions at the district. Not every district has the same positions, so the way that you classify an administrator may vary based on the district. So as we continue to look forward to that clarification, we've moved forward with some internal practices that we have and that we can definitely stand by. Also, there was some discussion regarding the revenue increase using ADA, and since the passage of House Bill 3, TEA has come out with some clarification on how to calculate that revenue increase. And so based on those guidelines that TEA has come out with, we've estimated that the 30% of our revenue per ADA increase is about $3.8 million. And so 75% of that 3.8 million that must be spent on full-time teachers, nurses, counselors, and librarians equals about 2.85 million. And then that leaves $950,000 that is required to be spent for non-administrative raises. So Belton ISD is going above and beyond that mandate. One, because when you change the salary structure or salary scale for teachers, nurses, counselors, and librarians, in order to maintain a sufficient level of division, we have to look at the salary structure for other employees. And Todd, chime in at any time, because we want to make sure that we still remain competitive and equitable at certain levels. But also, we want to provide compensation increases to other employees, including our administrators. So in addition to the House Bill 3 requirements, we are anticipating that we will spend about $900,000 more for additional increases for employees, and that brings our preliminary salary increase estimate to that 4.7 million that I talked about earlier or previously. This amount is subject to change based on refining our calculations and determining how the raises will be applied. And I want to say one thing about the amounts that are required, that 2.85 million and 950,000, that doesn't mean that that is how much, that's a floor basically for how much we have to give teachers and our non-administrative staff. So it's not as simple as taking that amount and trying to figure out how many teachers and so on and so forth. But Todd is the expert on that, and they're working through that. And so we are in, the takeaway is that our teachers will be, our employees will be receiving a raise.
We are working through this. This is complicated legislation. We've never had these kinds of requirements based on these percentages, and everyone in the state is trying to interpret and come up with a plan for their school districts. And so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out all across the area and all across the state. These are significant raises. And we don't want to put out any information at this point. It's a little preliminary, and so we need a little more time to work on it, and then we plan to bring back a compensation package to you next month for discussion. But at this point, we wanted to stay at a high level so we could continue to massage it over the next 2-3 weeks.
That's loud. So when we look at this in July, is that a preliminary package, or are we going to act in July?
Yeah, we hope to act in July. We'd like to push as soon as Todd is ready. And like Jennifer said, there are a couple of more conferences this week that they want to attend to learn some more information from the state. So we've relied on the Equity Center, TASBO, and Moke Casey as our experts. And then, of course, we had some sessions last week with our Region 12 superintendents. And so as soon as we're comfortable that we're where we need to be, then we'd like to push that out to you in advance. And then we'll have a workshop in July and then ask for your approval. If you feel like you need additional time or want to have a special workshop meeting to discuss it, we could do that as well. There isn't a lot of, you're pretty much given the total that you have to increase salaries, but you can do that in a number of different ways. But the interesting part is that you have that floor that you have to meet. So we'll continue to work on that and bring that back to you as we get closer to developing. Want to add any more, Todd? Dr. Muller? This would be a good opportunity for me to thank Jennifer and Todd Schiller and Dr. Robert Muller, who have really been studying this and working through the state template and seeking additional help to interpret and getting us there. And so we are making progress, and we're very proud of that.
Yeah. There are definitely a lot of details that go into this. But at this point, We have projected revenue of $117.5 million, with expenses coming in at about $111 million, and that leaves a contingency amount of $6.5 million that you may decide to use to offset costs associated with school growth or enrollment growth and the new schools. But I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out to you. And again, these amounts are subject to change as we will get additional clarification. I mean, each week there's something different, something new being defined. And as we get that information, we go back and tweak these numbers and these figures and to see where we are. But I want to point out that this is an unprecedented budget increase that really couldn't come at a better time. With our growth and our opening of the new schools, this increase in funding is really, really valuable to us.
And we'll be adding new positions for the next several years. As we phase in the high school next year, we'll add a good number of positions to open the high school, and then as we add a grade level, we'll continue to need to add. So that $6.5 million dollars in contingency is really good for us, and we're very pleased to be able to use that to help us grow.
So this budget year has definitely been an interesting one, unlike last year, because we've experienced some delays, we've experienced some changes. So I plan to be back in front of you in July to discuss the school nutrition and debt service, or INS, budgets, as well as bringing some additional clarification on general fund. And in terms of the INS budget, we still do anticipate lowering our INS rate, and we're working with the appraisal district on that. And we're excited about the opportunities in terms of the benefit that it will provide to our taxpayers with a decreased tax rate. And we will receive certified values at the end of July. We'll make sure to get that information out to you as quickly as possible. But we most likely will not have it in time for the July board meeting, but I still plan to present a near final budget review in July. And then in August, we'll be back, and I will ask you to adopt the final budget and set a tax rate. I just want to point out that people are asking, so what does this mean? Where are we? What does this mean for my district? What does this mean for Belton ISD in terms of the passage of House Bill 3? We're in a good place in Belton ISD. House Bill 3 was very beneficial for us, and we will experience a lower M&O tax rate. And again, we anticipate providing either further tax relief by lowering our INS rate. Personnel as a percentage of the budget is only increasing by about 1.5%, which lets us maintain our categorical spending amounts. We're not restructuring our budget. We are not anticipating anything drastic. And then these figures are moving targets. Everything will change, but we don't anticipate any huge or drastic changes. But in the grand scheme of things, we are very, very, very fortunate, and we have fared very well under House Bill 3. We are looking forward to the future and the sustainability of it, and just making sure that we are doing what's right and what's good for Belton ISD and the kids that we serve. So if you have any questions, I will take them.
I just have one comment, and I just saw Hugh Shine walk back in. I just really want to thank him and all of the legislators who worked on House Bill 3 to really be advocates and help public schools, and we appreciate Hugh big time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer, and also want to thank Dr. Kincannon and her team for going through the weeds and helping us understand what our next steps are. What I clearly heard was lower taxes are anticipated. What I clearly heard were raises are anticipated. So that's great news all the way around, not only for our staff, but also for our community. I see that Representative Shine is back, and I believe he's going to follow up with some post-legislative updates and talk a little bit more about House Bill 3 or whatever he would like to discuss. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And I think Ty had a
And Ty had a question.
Just hang on. I just wanted to say thank you all so much. Studying all this and reading about it and anticipating going into this, and you guys have been sitting on hold and not knowing, and I don't think things looked really good for a little while down there. But I think that I'm excited for our stakeholders. I'm excited for our kids and our employees. And I think this was a message that the last election, stakeholders need to know this, was a message to those folks down there. And I think without the results that happened this last time, I don't know that this would have gotten done. So this was a team effort by the stakeholders, by the people of the state of Texas, by people like Representative Shine who are down there fighting for us. But we feel comfortable knowing that you guys have this and Dr. Kincannon staff. But this was a clear message that the state of Texas, I think this is a group effort by everybody, and I'm excited about it.
We are too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Representative Shine, would you like to join us? Thank you.
All right, thank you for this opportunity to follow your budget. So the Texas plan is what we passed. As y'all know, last session, we battled with vouchers, and we battled with a lot of things, and we didn't accomplish things that needed to be done. Sometimes when you're a little older, you have had some experiences, and in my case, I had the experience of being in the legislature 30 years ago when Edgewood versus Kirby came out. And that was the beginning of all the lawsuits. And I remember that very well because that's where we got Robin Hood. And I watched that over the years, even after I left the legislature years ago. And basically all the legislature did was just push it down, and the courts just continued to maintain control. I've said this repeatedly to a number of folks in public education, that what we did this past session with House Bill 3 was monumental. And what we basically did is we took the responsibility away from the courts and put it back in the legislature where it belongs. That took a lot of effort, and I commend the Speaker of the House and Chairman Dan Huberty, the public education, and his lieutenants, Mr. Ashby from out in Lufkin, and Mr. King from up in the Panhandle, Mr. Van Dever up in Northeast Texas, good friends of mine. And these folks worked very hard to make this happen. I'm going to give you a quick summary and hit some high points. First off, I want to point out that there were a number of bills that dealt with the Texas plan overall. The Texas plan is House Bill 3, and I will get into that in a moment. But I want to point out that school safety was addressed in Senate Bill 11. And we addressed in Senate Bill 12, for the retired teachers, we addressed the issue of increasing the funding from the state from 6.8% to 8.8%. I met with TRS over a year and a half ago to discuss teacher retirement and spent pretty much half a day with them and put together a presentation that I would be more than delighted to share with the school board. I put it on a PowerPoint to look at the history of how it got into the shape it got into. Increasing the contribution from the state is a critical factor. What the legislature also did is they included a 13th check for retirees for both 2020 and in 2021. Senate Bill 500 provided the supplemental money to fund those provisions in Senate Bill 12. Now, I want to point out, too, that this is not over with because we have a $40 billion unfunded liability in TRS. This does provide some stability, but there needs to be sustainability as well, and that is something that I intend to be working on during the interim. So now to move to the biggie, which is House Bill 3. basically 4 basic provisions. One of those provisions does not impact Belton ISD or any other school district in Bell County, and that's the recapture reduction. Okay? We're not affected by that. And so I'll skip that provision and spend a little bit more time on the other 3, which are the transformational education reforms, the property tax relief issue, and the teacher compensation. First, on the transformation education reforms, is $4.5 billion. It will significantly increase the basic allotment per student. It will fund full-day pre-K for low-income students, and it adopts a high-quality K-3 reading standard so students read at grade level by 3rd grade. It also creates the first dyslexia identification program in Texas history. It will accelerate the student achievement for the CCMR, which is College, Career, and Military Readiness. Also tying in outcome bonuses, dual language programs. And it funds transportation at a rate of $1 a mile and quadruples funding for building and equipping new facilities, which Dr. Kincannon and I have already had a discussion about, and I have your email, and I refreshed myself with the email, and we will address that, and I already have my staff looking into that, to look at the intent of what the legislation did. And a lot of times this is what's necessary, and this is the reason why we're having a meeting tomorrow with superintendents, to get feedback from those who have to implement the policy that the legislature passes, to find out where you need help with either TEA or in some other source to make sure that the intent of the legislature is fulfilled by that agency. And we will be following up with that as well. Also, to direct more funds to schools with higher concentrations of underserved students, including dropouts, students in special ed, and residential treatment facilities. Now, in the area of property tax relief, what the state has done, it has provided about $5 billion from state revenues that are there in the school, for the budgets for the schools, which will allow school districts, on the average, to be able to reduce their property tax rate, hopefully 8 cents per $100 valuation in 2020 and 13 cents in 2021. Of all the legislation that was passed out of the legislature, this was the only piece that actually addressed any type of property tax relief for local property owners. It provides an additional 2.5% of tax compression, which will start in 2021. It will also provides overwatch through the audit process to ensure that taxpayer dollars are used by all schools responsibly, requiring districts to conduct efficiency audits before going to the voters for any type of tax increase. And it increases, the most important thing is, it increases the state's share of funding in the school foundation school program from 38% to 45%. As I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, in 1987, the state funded public education at a rate of 65%. And over the last 30 years, that has declined to where it is today at 38%. You're going to see that increase to 45%, and it is my hopes that we will continue to see the state restore its percent of responsibility over the next biennium. And then last but not least is $2 billion for dynamic teacher compensation to compensate educators as true professionals and unleashing about $2 billion in dynamic pay raises for teachers, librarians, counselors, and nurses. It creates a merit incentive pay program for high-quality educators. It increases the minimum teacher salary schedule, and it invests in professional development and mentoring programs for new teachers as well. I have just given you kind of a recap of the major items that are contained in House Bill 3, Senate Bill 11, Senate Bill 12, and Senate Bill 500 with the supplemental, because all this was accomplished with 2 major pieces of legislation. Obviously, the budget out of House Bill 1, and also with the supplemental budget, which was Senate Bill 500. So we addressed issues for, and one other thing for the retired teachers, additional money was put in for their health care premiums as well. So those things are long overdue, and House Bill 3 was, I believe, initially was a much better bill than the compromise piece, but the compromise piece was still a very good bill. And the reason for that is because the conferees from the House stood very firm to the extent that they were willing to see a special session if necessary, if the Senate didn't go along with a lot of the House provisions. And I very delighted that the members we had on that conference committee did that. With that, that kind of concludes the overview, and I certainly am available to meet one-on-one, meet with your principals or staff or others during the summer months to discuss further. And tomorrow morning, I think we'll identify some areas that might need a little more of attention, and we've already identified one, and we'll be delighted to work with you in that regards. Any specific
Thank you.
questions?
We appreciate you. Again, I want to echo what Ms. Lee said about thanking you for all of your hard work, because certainly those fruits of labor are evident today. So thanks again for all your work. And I think I jumped in.
Chris has a question.
I just
Yes,
have
sir.
one thing. I'm just a clarification. So when will the, well, first off, let me say thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, so thank you for leading the charge. Thank you for having education at the forefront. We can't thank you enough for what's going on, right, and your push. Just as a point of clarification, right, when it comes to tax rates and lowering tax rates, can you clarify in what tax year taxpayers would actually see that?
Well, this is for the next biennium budget. That
Okay, that's what I
starts in September the 1st.
Okay.
Okay, so that's when all of this really will take place in the next budget cycle, the next biennium.
Okay, that's what I
And
thought.
it's my hopes that we can have sustainability in all of this past this next biennium as well. That'll be what my office will be working on with others during the interim, and making sure that we address some of those things for the next biennium, which will be in 2021 when we
Yeah.
meet again.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, does any other board member have questions, comments? No? Thank
Well,
you.
Madam Chair, let me just say, I am delighted to represent such an outstanding school district, as well as the other school districts across Bell County. We have 9 in Bell County, and I touch on all of them a little, not as much in Killeen, but everybody else. Y'all do a great job with this school. I'm delighted to be there to support you, and if you need me, you know how to get a hold of me, and I'm there to respond and serve you. Thank y'all very much for what you do.
Thank
for our
you. We
kids. You're
appreciate
welcome.
you, sir.
You bet. Good day.
It is 5:48. The board is going to go into closed session to discuss, that's Texas Government Code subchapters D and E, personnel, Texas Government Code Section 551.074, and deliberations about real property, Texas Government Code Section 551.072. We will be back as soon as we can. It is 6:15, and we will resume in open session. At this time, we're going to move forward with recognitions, and so we'll have Josh get us started.
Thanks. A lot less students than last board. We had, I think, about 170 students. First off, though, Dallas Hankemer, a sophomore at Belton High School, earned a bronze medal at the UIL Boys 6A Golf State Championships. Dallas, who was one of 4 players to break par both days of the state tournament, shot a 3 under 69 on day 1 and a 4 under 71 on day 2 to finish in 3rd with a total of 140. Belton boys golf coach Jim Helms and the entire Tiger athletic staff expect this impressive first state tournament finish to serve him well next season. Congratulations, Dallas.
Congratulations. Congratulations to you, sir.
Belton High School principal Jill Ross has been recognized by the Texas Association of Secondary School Principals, TASPE, as Region 12's Principal of the Year.
Woo woo.
Now, TASPE recognizes outstanding principals and assistant principals from 20 regional education service centers in the state. Nominations are based upon exemplary performance and outstanding leadership. School administrators are nominated and chosen by their peers. Now, the daily demands of leading a comprehensive 6A high school as large as BHS are quite incredible. Jill has a special strength of endurance and resilience. She's demonstrated these traits as she leads with integrity and professionalism. As a result, BHS continues to flourish, and we all here are certain that Lake Belton High School will follow suit under her leadership. Congratulations again, Jill.
Thanks for representing us so well, Miss Jill. You're awesome.
Belton New Tech High School at Wasco teacher Jessica Settle and South Belton Middle School teacher Shelley Potts have been selected for the prestigious Liftoff Summer Institute to be held at NASA's Johnson Space Center this summer. The nationally competitive program, sponsored by NASA's...
You guys want to move over in the center?
Oh.
Hey, Chris, you guys want to come to the center? You know, move over a little bit?
Yeah, so
Thank
everyone can see
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
The nationally competitive program is sponsored by NASA's Texas Space Grant Consortium. They select teachers to spend a week working with professional scientists and engineers in a workshop setting on innovative lesson experimentation and lesson plan ideas. Mrs. Settles and Mrs. Potts, who's here this evening, experiences in this program, they'll certainly enrich and strengthen classroom instruction and further enhance student learning next year. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And the construction of Lake Belton High School, in many respects, reflects not only the future for our district and this community, but also the rich history, important landmarks, and geographical features which have made this area such a desirable place that we all call home. To better illustrate this significance, administrators, staff, and students have been working alongside local historian and writer Patty Benoit to plan for interior graphics at the new campus. Old photographs and information provided by Mrs. Benoit, who's up here, informed the themes and names for classroom areas, including the depot, representing the Santa Fe Depot and significance of the railroads, the prairie, representing the significance of the Blackland Prairie, the springs, representative of the water and the creeks in the area, and the line, representing the interurban railway trolley that existed between the city of Belton and the city of Temple in the early 1900s before paved roads and automobiles. In addition, Mrs. Benoit has been instrumental in graphics planned for the LBHS Main Street, which will include iconic images of both the city of Belton and the city of Temple. For her significant contributions, Patty Benoit is the Big Red Community Partner for June. Congratulations. And that'll do it this evening for recognitions. Thank you.
Next item on our agenda would be public comments. Do we have any that are signed up, Ms. Connie? No. Okay, then. I'm sorry? Okay, but they've not signed up. Okay, thank you. And so at this time, we'll start our public hearing with Ms. Ray then. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and audience. It's the time of year that the federal programs presents a public hearing to introduce to you our consolidated grant application and take input and inform you of the benefits of each grant fund. And I will toggle through each grant fund and explain them for your benefit. Grant funds start with the Department of Ed. They then go to the Texas Education Agency, which serves as a pass-through entity, and the money then goes to the districts. This year, with Title and IDEA grant funds, we will get over $3 million to serve our students, which is a slight increase over what we received last year. The federal grant funds support activities identified in the needs assessment and are supplemental to our required or basic programs for our students. Title I Part A provides financial assistance to the district and their campuses that serve high numbers and high percentages of economically disadvantaged students. These resources are used to provide all children significant opportunities to fair, equitable, and high-quality education, and to close educational achievement gaps. We will serve 8 Title I campuses next year, and that will include our new Charter Oak Elementary. With Title I funds, we are able to provide supplemental staff who serve students with small group instruction. This includes instructional aides and interventionists. It also funds our homeless and foster care liaisons and supports the identified students in those programs. A percentage of Title I funds is used for our English instructional support for our English learner parents, as well as campus-led parent engagement opportunities. The Title II program is to improve the quality and effectiveness of teachers, principals, and other school leaders in order to help increase student achievement consistent with the challenging state academic standards. In addition to 2 instructional coordinators, Title II grant funds provide professional development aligned to identify needs. Certified bilingual teachers are often hard to find, and Title II provides additional incentives with a sign-on bonus for new bilingual certified teachers. Title III provides enhanced instructional opportunities for students who qualify as English learners. They will help them attain English proficiency and academic achievement. For the 1920 school year, our bilingual campuses include Beck's, Chisholm Trail, Southwest, and Charter Oak Elementary. Title III funds supports our English learners with additional reading materials in their classroom libraries. A comprehensive software product named Elevation is purchased with these funds and helps track student performance and helps identify those needing additional academic support. The Every Student Succeed Act was signed into law in December of 2015, and along with that, Title IV Part A was newly authorized as the Student Support and Academic Enrichment Program, which has prioritized funding guidelines. With our Title IV funds, we pay a portion of the Coordinator of Security's position to help school conditions for student learning. Training for our administrators and counselors in the area of social emotional learning is an ongoing emphasis for these grant funds. Avid training, as well as professional development for blended learning activities, is provided to improve the academic achievement and digital literacy of all students. There we go. IDEA grant funds support our district as they meet the unique needs of children with disabilities and prepare them for further education, employment, and independent living. As the needs of our students change each year, the objective of this grant is to support them as they work toward their identified goals. Listed are positions that were grant funded this past year, including specific campus teachers and aides, transportation aides, and district-wide support personnel. IDEA B preschool funds specifically support children ages 3 through 5. An instructional aide at Belton Early Childhood School and materials and supplies were supported with this particular grant. This concludes the explanation of each grant activity. Our application is due July 1st, and we always value the input from our staff, our community, our parents, as we finalize that application that will serve to advance our students' academic achievement. I will take any questions or comments at this time from anybody that would like to participate.
Does the board have any questions? No, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for allowing me the presentation.
Thank you. That concludes our public hearing on, to discuss federal programs, and we will close on the public hearing and reopen. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Does any board member have any item they'd wish to have pulled for further discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve? Thank you. We've got a motion from Ms. Lee. Is there a second? There's a second from Dr. Montgomery. All in favor, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Superintendent's report. Next item on our agenda.
Okay, I have just a couple of things that I want to mention this evening. I'll start with some administrative changes, and I want to acknowledge that last week Judy Schiller, our principal at Lakewood Elementary, notified us of her plans to retire this summer, and I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank Judy for her 36 years of service to public education. For the last 15 years, she's been in Belton ISD. She came to us in 2004, 2005 as the assistant principal at Tarver Intermediate School, which is now Lake Belton Middle School. And then she spent a year at Tyler Elementary as an assistant principal in 2005, 2006, and for the last 13 years has been the principal of Lakewood Elementary. Judy has made a significant contribution in the school district and to the success of the children at Lakewood Elementary. And of course, I will forever be grateful to Judy, as she was my child's principal from the 1st through the 5th grade. And so we have a special bond there around my daughter. So I wanted to acknowledge Judy this evening. I don't think she's here, but I wanted to make that announcement publicly.
Thank you, Dr. Kincannon. She certainly will be missed, and I'm sure that going forward, that all of those staff that are left behind will miss her terribly. So
Absolutely.
that's amazing.
Also excited to announce this evening that Mike Morgan, Mike, would you stand up, will be our new Assistant Superintendent for Student Services. And I'm very excited about that. Mike has been with us since 2007. He's been a coach, a football coach, a special teams coach, a head track coach, an assistant athletic director, and academic coordinator, and most recently has been our athletic director. And as you know, Mike is well respected in Belton ISD. Looks good in a suit, doesn't he, in that picture? He's dependable, and he produces quality work. And we appreciate him, and I am thankful for his willingness to take on this new role, and I know that he's going to provide great service to our schools, our families, and our kids in this new role. And so I appreciate you, Mike. He will begin in his new position on July 1, and we will be posting the athletic director's position as soon as possible. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. Morgan. I just know you're excited. We're excited to see what you're going to bring in your new role. It'll be just as excellent as the other ones. So appreciate that. Yeah. Any other comments?
All right, I don't want to take anything away from Mike, but I got to go back to Judy for a second. Sure. Judy Schiller. My family affectionately knows Miss Schiller as Princessable Schiller. So I've had 3 go through Lakewood. I've still got 1 going through, and I just can't say enough about Judy's focus, her intense focus on the children, right? No matter who the child is, no matter what their circumstance is, no matter whether in the hook or not in the hook. I mean, her focus on the children has just, I mean, it's so evident, and that focus will definitely be missed. I mean, if I think about what her legacy is, right, I think her legacy is truly that, right? And so I think my challenge, right, to Todd and to Dr. Kincannon, right, is when we look at to try to fill that huge void, right? How do we do that and still fulfill and keep that legacy going forward? So we will miss her dearly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Any others?
try this again. Back to Coach. I just want to express how proud I am. I've known him for a long time, and he was my son's position coach, and so you kind of get to know position coaches a little bit more than you do some of the others. And he is a high-quality individual, and I know that whatever he touches, he works harder than anybody I've ever known. And I've been around a lot of coaches because I was a coach for a long time, and you're not going to outwork him. So wherever he goes, he's going to be very solid for us, and I'm very happy for this.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
We've got plenty of work. Okay, moving on, just wanted to mention that we do have our preliminary start data that was released last Tuesday by the Texas Education Agency. Our principals have emailed instructions to parents on how to access their students' scores. And just a high view of those results shows that 1/4 of our students are performing at the highest levels on reading and math assessments across all grade levels, and 1/3 of our students are performing at the highest levels in science and social studies. On 3rd through 8th grade reading and on our English 1 and English 2 end-of-course exams, our students performed higher than the state on 96% of the reported performance levels, which include indicators for approaches, meets, and masters. And those preliminary scores are provided to us to allow us an opportunity to review the data and ensure that the information is accurate before state ratings are released. And so we are studying the data, and we'll use it to predict our accountability rating, but most importantly, we will use that data as we develop our campus and district plans this summer and shore up our instructional plans for next school year. We will bring you a full report next month, including a review of the calculations and how to get there for TEA's ratings under the A through F system, and that will be 1 month in advance of the official ratings, which will come out by the state on August the 15th. So look for that from Dr. Lovesmith in July, and perhaps Vicki Dean, who, as you will recall, provided us with a number of lessons last year on A through F. So we'll give you a nice review. And that's all I have.
Well, thank you. Does any board member have any questions, comments? No? Okay, we'll move on to Mr. Todd Schiller. Our next item on the agenda is consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the employment of administrative employees.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So I've got several recommendations tonight, 7 in total. We're going to start off. I'm going to call the individual up, and if they would come up here and stand as I introduce them. First of all, Tammy Baggerly.
Okay. As you approach, would you just kind of stand in the middle here so we'll have a nice, wonderful picture? Thank you.
Tammy is currently at Southwest Elementary as an instructional coach. She's moving to assistant principal there. She has 9 years within the district, served as a teacher. Prior to her time at Southwest, she was at Chisholm Trail, has a master's degree at A&M University Central Texas and a bachelor's degree from University of Texas. So we appreciate her and congratulations. The next one I have is Jolene Bruce. This is for assistant principal at Lakewood Elementary. Jolene has a master's degree, educational leadership and policy studies from University of Texas at Arlington, has a bachelor's degree from the Texas State University. Jolene is in her 14th year in education. She comes to us from Georgetown ISD, where she served as a principal of a campus there. And then prior to that, she was in Georgetown ISD with 12 years. So we appreciate her.
And she's enrolled in the doctoral program at Baylor University, I just found out. So compares. Yeah, welcome.
Next is Corey Craddock. Corey's being recommended tonight for Belton High School Assistant Principal. He's one of 4 recommendations for Assistant Principal at the high school. Master's degree of Education from Lamar University of Beaumont. Bachelor's of Business Administration from Tarleton State University in Stephenville. Been a number of years in education, 18 total. Comes to us with a couple of years of experience as an assistant principal. One of those where he's coming from is Florence ISD as assistant principal. Previously he's been in Giddings ISD and then has a number of teaching years prior to that. So. The next is Brian Gill. Another high school assistant principal, master's degree, Lamar University of Beaumont, bachelor's of art, music education from Texas State University in San Marcos, 7 years in education, been to band director, comes to us from Lone Star ISD, where he served as percussion director and as a principal intern. So we were excited for him too. And then Stephen Gradney. Stephen has a master's degree education from University of Texas, bachelor's of arts degree in sociology from University of North Texas, and 11 years in education, all in Round Rock ISD before coming here, 11 years as a teacher there. So. And then we have Amber Loubier. Amber has a master's degree from the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor, a bachelor's degree in English from California Baptist University, and 11 years as a teacher. Comes to us obviously from Belton High School, where she's been a teacher there. So. And then the last, that's the assistant principals, and then we also recommending tonight Director of College and Career Readiness, Tiffany Sommerfeld. Tiffany comes to us from Waco ISD. She's served as a director of PEAMS and counseling there, and assistant principal prior to that in Tennyson Middle School and Waco ISD. Been an instructional specialist, been a teacher, and is in her, I guess, approaching her 13th year in education. So, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll vote. Is there a motion to approve as recommended? So we have a motion for Mr. Ty Taggart. Is there a second? We have a second for Mr. Floor. All in favor, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. Now that you're all officially here, for those of you who are new to Belton, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We're excited to see what you're going to bring and mix your talents with ours, but ours succeeds yours. The other thing that we're excited about, for those of you who are going to be at the high school, I'm going to go ahead and, this is June 17, 2019. I'm putting out a disclaimer. My son will be at the high school. I'm sorry. He loves to talk. Ask Jill Ross, she'll tell you. he loves to talk. I'm sorry. But congratulations and welcomes, everybody. Next on our agenda, we are going to have Mr. Jarrett talk to us about our project update.
Great. Well, thank you for having us again this month. And I have the pleasure of giving you the June board update for construction here. It's been continued to be a busy time of the year, despite school being out. Workers are still working, going through the process. So, starting off with Lake Belton High School, as you recall from last month, we presented. These are some of the images that really focused, as well as the focus continues this month on the structural system, the exterior envelope, MEP trades. What I'll point out here in this photo from last month is right in the middle, right where the administration and that classroom wing are. You can see the structural steel, the bare steel there in the area. You see some of the brick going up. So as we progress to the next photo, you'll see that that's actually all the way closed in at this point. You'll see brick is starting to appear on the left side of the facility. And so those trades are really working hard at this point. So the Bartlett Koch, the construction manager, has crested the 50% mark. They're at about 52% right now. And so that's everything from the building to the site and the fields, which you see there at the bottom photo, where they've got everything prepped up. And basically now it's ready for the turf to go on. They're waiting on the right time here just to make sure it doesn't get out too early, but getting that out onto finishing the fields. As you start moving around the facility, one of the targets that the contractor has is by around the 1st of August, they're trying to have the entire building dried in. So that means that we have sheathing, we have the air moisture membrane and the roofing surface on. So here you see on the large photo that they're getting the brick in place. On the far right of the photo, you'll see that there are windows with glazing put in place. And then where you see all the blue with the metal studs on the face, that will be metal panel here pretty soon that they'll start erecting on that side. So they're definitely making headway and keeping ahead. If you talk to the contractor, they're disappointed that they're not further ahead. They're right on target right now for substantial completion. So they're pushing and pushing along the way, which is a great thing. As we step inside the space, you'll see multiple spaces where you're getting the overhead MEP from the chilled water lines that you see to the HVAC ducts. We're doing drywall in multiple areas of the building. So one side where we haven't gotten the inspections yet, all the way around to the bottom right, you see where we've got two-side drywall from that standpoint. So they are clicking along inside the building as well. And what stood as an open box in the auditorium, they're starting to get the steel studs in place, get the framing, so it's starting to finish out that space, one of the most technical spaces, or probably the most technical space in the entire building. They're continuing to work in those areas.
Take note of that bottom left picture. We'll talk about that space in our next presentation. Yeah.
So then going out to the fields, kind of as I mentioned, all the artificial turf areas are prepped up all the way through the sub-base. So you can see kind of on the bottom left, the bullpens, you actually see the home plate where that's going to go for the bullpens. On the fields, they're starting to get fencing up. They've got the artificial lighting up. The dugout's pretty well built out. Batting cage on the bottom right is erected between the fields. You see that in the kind of left side of the top photograph. And then tennis courts are pretty much all poured out at this point. So they have 8 of the 10 courts poured at this one. So again, making headway all the way across the campus. At this point, skipping over Charter Oak because that one has completed. We've gone through the punch list, gone through and double-checked the punch list, working through the last little final items so we can close out the project. We're hoping to bring that to you next month for official sign-off and close out once we get the O&Ms, the warranties, final change order to close out and zero out the project in there. But wanted to touch base on the Belton High School Orchestra Edition. So this one, this is the schedule. It's a little bit refined from what we presented to you last month, but it is out for bid. This Thursday at 2 o'clock, we will receive bids. So that is June 20th. We'll go through the process of evaluating the bids and work with the district through that process over those next few days. And then June 25th at 8 o'clock, we've got a special meeting where we will look to have a recommendation and have the board approve a contractor to get going. And ultimately, then you see the 3 substantial completion dates. We're going to hit the ground running, get the road realigned right off the bat, and then start working on the main building from there and work towards final substantial completion next summer. So we'll have everything wrap up at that point, the high school, the orchestra edition, and then as well as the 9 will switch over to a middle school there. So with that, I will welcome any questions that you might have.
I get asked this question every day. When is the punch-out going to be completed at Charter Oak?
At Charter Oak, so as we went through, there were, we finished.
What was the question?
When is the
question-
punch-out going to get finished at Charter Oak? Somebody asks me that every day, just one person.
So we've finished the architectural punch list and gone through those items. For example, at the time we completed, there were still landscaping items over, so we had sent a punch list. So it's kind of rolling. That's the goal, is within the next month to have all that punched out, which is not only things in the field, but then things in the office like the O&M manuals to make sure that you've got good documentation at the end of the day.
Any other questions or comments? Well, I guess that's it. Thank you.
Great. Well,
Appreciate
thank y'all very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
See you next week. Okay, next item on our agenda is review and discuss Lake Belton High School graphics. This is going to be fun.
Good evening. This may be the most exciting presentation that I've given in my career here at Belton ISD. Tonight we're going to start telling you the story of Lake Belton High School. The process for building the school began very traditionally, where the district included teachers to come in, students, and we had all kinds of people come in and provide input on what was needed on the school to make it the most effective, efficient place to learn that we could have. But tonight, you will see some design elements that you're going to see that look very familiar, but different. You're going to see some things that look a little bit like Belton New Tech, and we are convinced that Lake Belton High School is going to transform education in a large, comprehensive high school in a way that we haven't seen in Belton ISD before. When members of our team sat down to work on the details, such as color choices and design elements, we started thinking about it as if it were any other building. But Jana, our interior designer for O'Connell Robertson, challenged us to think differently. And throughout our conversations, we hit upon the idea that we might want to connect our building, our big, beautiful, cutting-edge building, with the history of our area. And so Lake Belton High School is big. We've all said that. It's going to be a big place. But within the building, the architects have put together areas that are designed to collaborate and facilitate collaboration. The architects have called them neighborhoods. These neighborhoods will create the places of learning, and they will also assist the students as they find their way about the building. These large areas will prepare our Broncos to excel in tomorrow's world. Ms. Benoit wrote that Broncos often represent travel and new journeys. Broncos were a type of horse, not a specific breed, and in the early days of Bell County, settlers depended on horses. Railroads and cars replaced those horses and expanded Bell County's economy. Transportation is still important with increased rail traffic and I-35. The Bronco mascot links the past with the present and the future. It symbolizes learning and training that awakens our understanding and helps us to discover freedom and talents no matter where our trails lead, on sod, steel rails, asphalt, or in the clouds. Broncos represent momentum. Barbara Epperson has been a vital part of this process of naming the neighborhoods, and she, along with some of her assistants who are future Broncos, will tell you the story of the place that we call Lake Belton High School, linking our past, present, and our future.
I was going to go through a little bit of the process of how we got here. So first I want to say Miss Patty Benoit is still here with us, so thank you. Our first step was to understand the history of Bell County better. I am not from here, but I got here as soon as I can, but that wasn't until 2012. So I had to learn a lot about the history. So Dr. Kincannon actually recommended that I talk to Patty Benoit, and I talked to her, and then my favorite part is all the local museums and Temple and Belton said, oh, no, go ask Patty. So they all also referred me to Patty, and she brought me into her home, welcomed me, and showed me her collection of over 18,000 photo postcards that date from the 1800s all the way up to more recent times. And during that process, we started to find some themes that emerged, and a lot of those themes were water and transportation. So a lot of those same themes about the Bronco that Ms. Ross just told you about. So I took those themes and I just took screenshots with my phone of all of her pictures and brought them to Dr. Kincannon, I brought them to Ms. Ross, and we were just so blown away by the history that we had. So we came up with about maybe 10 names or so of ideas to bring them to students. So I went first to North Belton because I had worked with a history fair group there off and on, and I know they would tell me how it is because you need 7th graders to tell you how it is. You don't want people that are going to be nice. So they told me, I mean, they were very nice though, but they told me They told me how to refine my questions. It made better sense for middle school students. They gave me input on names. They showed me what they liked, what they didn't. And from there, I spoke to 95 seventh graders between Lake Belton Middle School and North Belton Middle School. So we met in groups in the library of Lake Belton, and we were in classrooms at North Belton, so we were able to kind of come up with that. Students really drove this process. I want to emphasize that. Something as basic as the Main Street, we were thinking for a hallway. They automatically told me from North Belton and Lake Belton both, that should be the main hallway. So things like that, and we'll talk about Main Street in a little bit. They're actually going to tell you about that. But after I did that process, we gathered all the data from what the students said, and we met back at Ms. Benoit's house. She invited us back in, this time with Dr. Kincannon, Ms. Ross, Jana, and Patricia. And we were able to kind of go through images that best fit what our students were saying. So she was just so instrumental, which is why she was our partner this month. So even though we have 7 students from North and Lake with us, I promise you we had male students, they're just not here. But even though we had all these students, as they're giving you a presentation about different areas, I want to make sure that you hear all the voices of our students. So as you're seeing different slides, you'll see some quotes from students that aren't here, because we wanted to make sure and include them. So that was our way of including their voices for each area. So I'm going to let the students introduce themselves and talk about certain areas. So come on.
Hi, my name is Hannah Wood. I am a student at North Belton Middle School, and I was a part of the History Fair group that originally started.
Hi, my name is Jillian Schlafer, and I am a student at Lake Belton Middle School.
So today we're going to tell you about the importance of Main Street in Belton and Temple, and why it was chosen to be the name of the main hallway at Lake Belton High School. So basically, Main Street represents the heart of the city, and it's downtown. Anywhere you go, you're going to remember Main Street because that's the main street. And so when Bell County began in 1850, a small settlement along Nolan Creek was created, and it was chosen as the county seat. The town's name was soon changed from Nolansville to Belton, and Belton created a large courthouse square as its focus, with Main Street going around it.
Temple began in farms open pasture. Railroads were soon established. Shops popped up near the station. A railway roadhouse was created in Temple too. Businesses, governments, and churches were all located downtown. Then the towns branched out further past the main street. Each city advanced with traditions, personalities unique to their founding. The cities were different, complementary, yet depended on each other.
My favorite part of this project was just getting to learn the history of our town, which I never knew before, and just getting to be a part of making our new high school.
And my favorite part of the project was getting to name the hallways and picking them, and getting to see the new pictures of the new high school.
Hi, I'm Rebecca McGuire, and I'm a student at North Belton Middle School. I'm here to talk to you about including bridges at Lake Belton High School. Bridges are so important to our hometown, and it's a great fit including a bridge at Lake Belton High School. Bridges have always been vital to Belton and to Central Texas. It was in the 1700s when Spanish explorers found and named the Leon River. This river later contributed to the development of the cattle industry, utilizing the Chisholm Trail. It wasn't until the late 1800s that a water system was developed by the town of Temple. By the mid-1900s, parts of the Leon River were dammed to create Lake Belton and the bridge over it. Lake Belton became important for water control and providing to our homes and communities. Bridges still connect Temple and Belton and serve many purposes for growth and development. Thank you, Mrs. Epperson, Belton ISD, for allowing me and my friends to help with the growth of our school district. I'm proud to be a part of such a special time for my community.
Hi, my name is Jamila Cordero. I am a student at Lake Belton Middle School. I'm going to be talking about the interurban. known as the trolley or the line. This symbol of connecting both towns was important for us to include as a hallway. The two cities needed to be connected. Because of this, the interurban was created in 1904. It is an electric trolley system that contained 12 miles of track looping through the two cities' main commercial, medical, and residential areas. Temple and Belton depended on each other for trade and government. The interurban was one of the earliest trolley systems in Texas. In addition to this, the company also made a park at Midway, halfway between the two towns to promote tourism. Unfortunately, the interurban trolley was replaced by the growing popularity of cars. The line ended in the late 1920s. My favorite part of this project was me being a student being able to participate in my future high school. I can't wait to look back on years from now and know that I actually created something. Thank you.
Now the springs. Hi, my name is Stephanie Martinez. I'm a student at Lake Belton Middle School. I will tell you about the springs in Central Texas. We love the nature scenes and outdoor pictures, and it was important for us to include the springs at Lake Belton High School to represent all the water in the area. Ancient Native American nomadic tribes gathered at springs, such as Miller Springs, located between Temple and Belton. At certain times of the year, various tribes would meet at springs to compare hunting information, trade goods, and to enjoy others' company before moving on to different regions. Miller Springs Park was created in 1954 after construction of the Belton Dam in Lake Belton. It has 260-acre scenic natural area, which is quite big. My favorite part of doing this project would probably have to be just knowing that I made a slight contribution in making our new high school. Like, imagine years later, after generations go to that school to the point where it's not even the new one, and everything will be different in the cities of Temple and Belton, except for Lake Belton High School. That is what best motivated me to do this project. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Khalees Kane, and I am a student at North Belton Middle School, and I'm going to talk about the importance of railroads to the area. The cities of Belton and Temple's roots, culture, and history are all tied to the railroad and made the cities what they are today. One of the questions on our survey was, which name did you like most and why? For the people who chose the depot, a common reason why was because that it was a familiar sight. The Santa Fe Depot is recognizable from back then to now. Katy and Santa Fe railroads were not just vital to Temple and Belton, but they were an important driving force to all of Central Texas. They improved industry, medicine, trade, and quality of life for the residents. One of the most important railroads used during wartime was a part of Belton and Temple. It was a useful trade center for soldiers, their families, and military equipment. These railroads are still serve the same purpose and connect Belton and Temple to the rest of Texas. My favorite part of this project was choosing that the first 4-year graduates would take part in the survey, and that knowing that what I was doing was important because we were taking something almost forgotten and making it a part of a brand new high school.
Hello, my name is Leah Carranza. I am a student at Lake Belton Middle School. I'm going to talk to you about the importance of the prairie in agriculture in Central Texas. The cities of Belton and Temple are the gateways to the Blackland Prairie to the east. The Blackland Prairie makes up 12.6 million acres of Texas that stretches throughout the middle of the state. The prairie has rich and fertile farmland that we still use today for agriculture. Settlers in the early 1800s to Bell County described the prairie as having grasses taller than a man's head. Bell County's prairies were home to a rich variety of wildlife, including birds, reptiles, elk, pronghorns, grizzly bears, wolves, and bisons. My favorite part of the project was getting to learn about all the history and agriculture of Bell County. Thank you.
Okay, so my background is social studies, but can we just say how smart and wonderful our students are? They're, and I don't know if you saw those quotes, but I didn't edit them or make the vocabulary higher. They're so impressive. But my background's social studies, and that's probably why I enjoyed this project so much. In geography, which is what I taught for a long time here in Belton, you learn about places and location and how important they are. Location is just where something is. It's next to Walmart, it's 2 miles away, this is the address. But a place has a sense of meaning, and a place is unique, its culture is unique, and it brings out emotion in people. It has character and identity. And Jana and her team were able to show how these locations at Lake Belton High School became places and how they are going to become places. So she's going to come tell you what they look like now from our raw images.
That is a tough act to follow. This process has been incredible, and I cannot applaud this entire group, your administration, who has worked so hard, and these students who really put a heart and soul into doing this. And when we see these images, it's so cool to watch this building it's always been cool. It's always been great in these really academic ways and very thoughtful, and now it feels so personal. And that doesn't come easily. It comes with a lot of hard work from you guys. So this is that main image that we've seen several times coming in the front door, and straight off the bat, all the way at the back of the space, there's an actual bridge in your space, and it's bridging the indoor and outdoor learning spaces. And then it's a historic bridge that's still around town. It's recognized by many in the community. The kids have recognized it. It brands your school as Lake Belton High School. It's also a cool destination spot. One of the things that we wanted to be careful of is while these images are wonderful historic images, we didn't want it to feel like a museum. We wanted the images to be cool to look at even if they had no meaning. They're just cool. And then once you learn everything behind it, that's where that sense of pride really comes from. So we have your logo, your Broncos logo, and that bridge coming in. We're going to turn around and look right behind where we're standing. And this is that corner position on Main Street. And we have two views of actual Main Street. One is Belton and one is Temple. So it's really symbolizing that two communities coming together. I think it's pretty cool. So it's the main mixing pot of the high school, and then that's sort of graphically represented above in a large way. And again, hopefully just a kind of a cool graphic regardless of the story. And then we talked about each of the neighborhoods having their own identity. Sorry, we're going to do a close-up of the Lake Belton Bridge again. So this is just a closer view of that. You can kind of see how the colors play with each other. It's a little bit morphed, and this thing is massive. It's 10 feet tall by, I think it's 50 feet long. So when you're up against it, it's a delayed reaction. You see it from far away, and then it just feels cool as you interact with it close together. There's a sitting bar up on that top level where kids can come, perch, hang out, eat their meals. When we go into each of the neighborhoods, this is part of that wayfinding as well as creating an identity for each of the spaces. And so what we see on the image on the left, that can be seen once you're inside of those neighborhood area corridors, or as you're traversing through class to class, you know where you are when you start seeing this. But we've also associated with a bit of a color palette. So you see that on the bottom right, and that's what we'll find you'll pick up in the furniture. So we're working closely with you guys to help give that vibe. So the springs have this sort of muted blue kind of vibe to them, not a strong blue. But you'll see this continuity happening with each of the four neighborhoods. In the depot, we get a little bit more angular in the patterns of the furniture, kind of that railroad inspiration, a little bit more of the red, and then that stylized graphic of the large depot. And again, this graphic is massive. It's 10 feet tall and 33 feet wide with a TV in the center of it. So they're prominent pieces in the space.
That was it from that earlier presentation, that space I pointed out that you saw.
Yes.
So these are sample fabrics, may not be exact.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yes, exactly. They're just inspirations, so somewhere in that range of things. And then onto the prairie. So this is that prairie graphic. We think it's pretty cool. It's just worked out really well.
And it's Jana's favorite.
Is it coming out? And then the last one, we have the line.
And my favorite.
So also referred to as the interurban or the line. So again, a way of creating some identity with each of these spaces. There's a companion graphic to each of the prairie, the line, the springs on the secondary entrances. So if you're outside in the Main Street lobby, you'll see the name. So it would be very easy as the principal to say, yeah, go down Main Street, go to the line, and first time ever there, you would know that you're in the right space. You know you have arrived, which is helpful because it is a large building. And if we go back, if you go online, there is a QR code if you want to see this in the 3D kind of virtual reality. On that QR code at home, you can either scan it with your iPhone or download a QR, either way. So that'll be available on the board on the website or right here.
There you go.
Awesome.
Tonight, the district has recognized Patty Benoit, and Mrs. Benoit has helped us take our ideas and build a place of learning. We are also recognized that we are breaking new ground geographically. This building is more than just a structure. This building is going to tell our story, our current story. And so many of us are like my family. My family lives in the city of Temple and in Belton ISD. We have lived here longer than we ever expected because we love it here. And what we have decided as a group is that this high school represents some of us very, very well. It's more than a district that sits on two towns. It's a community where the soil is rich and provides nourishment to those who live here. It is a beautiful, lush, green oasis where we can revel in nature and raise strong people. It's a vibrant community raised by the railroad to be successful and the center of commerce. This high school connects two communities, much like the interurban line connected the two towns so many years ago. My personal favorite image is that one on Main Street on the corner, because it shows downtown Temple on one side and downtown Belton on the other. And together, it's a beautiful picture because it's a picture of my home. And I am very excited. This is going to be a beautiful building.
Thank you, and I know that everybody up here has something to say. Wow. Someone used the term personal, and I'm sitting here with all kinds of emotions. Having been reared in this particular area and knowing what it was like when it was Temple versus Belton or Belton versus Temple, and to see all of this coming together, I know it's just a high school, but this is not just a high school. It's a bridging of communities. We've been doing that in so many other ways, and to just be able to walk on Main Street, one side Temple, one side Belton, it stirs up emotions in me that you all cannot imagine. I am so excited about the things that have been done, and students, oh my goodness, your presentations, to be able to do what you've been doing, to participate in this process, and to be able to look back in the future to tell your family and your friends, I helped with that. I am responsible. That's a huge deal, very important. I'm going to stop because I'm going to cry because I'm a big crybaby. I know that somebody on this board has other things to say. Who would like to go next? Ms. Janet, go ahead.
Well, first of all, this is beautiful. It's far above anything I could have imagined or dreamed. So you guys did a wonderful job. And this is very emotional for me because, and my kids will tell you, when I talk about the opportunity to sit on the school board and be ISD at this time, in the history, in this time in our community, they know that I cry because this is incredibly meaningful to me to have grown up here and raised my children here and to have been a part of the rich heritage that we share. You know, to have been a Belton Tiger and my boys to be Belton Tigers and all that that means and all that that will always mean. So when we moved forward with this decision, you know, to build a second high school and choose a new mascot and switch it up a little bit and put it in the other town, you know, our big rival, it was scary and people were scared and they were afraid that we wouldn't do it right, you know. And so when I see this and I see how you've honored our heritage and how you are bringing us together and you're treating it with such respect and such dignity, and kids and for the boys that aren't here as well, please just remember you are now a steward of this history and never forget what you've done and the contribution you're making to future generations. It's a beautiful thing, and you've done a wonderful job.
Chris? Jeff? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, first to the students, that is amazing what you've done. Your pride when you walk through that school, and your parents, you've got to be very proud of your kids. I mean, that is a great job. And it's been said, but Patty, thank you. Without that, y'all could not have done what you did. And that is a community coming together, working together. I hope y'all learned from this experience. I hope y'all learned from Patty. Just everything that she brings to this is absolutely amazing. And so just thank you. And Patty, thank you for the just hours and hours you must have spent on this.
And sharing her photo collection, really special.
Thank you.
Chris?
Sentimentally, I can't beat any of the three of you. So, I mean, I'm over here like wiping it away, but like, I can't. You all did an amazing job. You absolutely killed it. And I would love to see us try to take this story and get this out maybe in a little bit different manner, right? Maybe put a video together. I've seen what the history fair has done, right, from a documentary standpoint. I'd love to see us kind of put this story together and you know, continue the story in advance of the school coming out. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, y'all did a great job.
Rosie?
I just want to compliment the brilliance of Patty first, and just the focus on history and using that as a focal point. Students, thank you so much for engaging and for being brave and coming and making a presentation today. It will be a lasting presentation, not just here, but for our community. And it's just heartwarming to know that the history of this community will continue to live on through high school. So thank you.
Thank you. Manuel?
First of all, students, when I was watching you give your presentations, I was thinking to myself, when I was in the 7th grade or 8th grade, well, I could have never done that. You'd have had to drag me in here and force me to do it. And just the way that you articulate your ideas and present your ideas is impressive to me. I'll be honest, when this process first started, and I think I talked to Janet about it one day, the idea in Belton was that once you're a Tiger, you're always a Tiger, and that will continue for people that attend Belton High School. But I don't know that I was on board when this process started in building a new high school and moving on. But I can tell you right now, as I see this process unfold, I was wrong about that. And I don't know that I would have ever thought I would have said that. But as I see this process and I see how the community has been involved and how this is going to be so good for our community, I was wrong about that. So I want to admit that on the record. So I am proud to serve on this board and see this process through, especially what it's doing for our students. And one of the things that I learned we attended an institute here just last weekend, and one of the things that came up, if I didn't hear the word once, I heard it 100 times, and that was the word collaborative, or the phrase collaborative effort. And that's mentioned on and on and on in these topics in these lectures that I attended. So that's what happened in this process. As I was driving home from San Antonio, I was thinking to myself, that's what's happened in this community. It's been a collaborative effort. It hasn't been just the board, it's been the community. It's been Dr. Kincannon and her staff. It's everyone involved in this process. So congratulations to the community and how this thing is unfolded. I can't wait for the school to open.
Mr. Taggart?
My family's been here for as long as any of us can remember, 5 or 6 generations. My grandmother graduated from Belton High School in 1935. My dad, 1962, me, 1989, 89ers. So I'm kind of like Manuel when this came about. We were like, I don't know about the new high school thing, but it's been an honor to echo what Janet said, to be involved in this process. And from the architects to the construction company, our superstar Jill Ross down here, Barbara, the presentation, the students, seeing this, I know I'm copying a lot of what they're saying, but wow. So people that follow me on social media know that I'm the boom guy, so all I can say is boom.
this is a very special moment. We've been talking a lot about moments, so I would just like for us to take this moment, students, Jill, Barbara, architects, and Miss Patty, and board, just to take that picture that will be preserved for moments in time to come. So let's just go down there and take a picture.
With all these students.
With all the students. Y'all, come on. And Patty. And Jenna. And Jerry. That was fun. And so now we have Angela to talk about policy.
As the room empties out.
Yeah.
I'd leave too.
Your turn, Angela.
So this is the last small update that you will see until we get the 400 or 500 page one after the legislative session. You think you learned all they did when y'all were at SLI this week, but just wait till you get the first of what usually ends up being about 4 updates following the legislative session, where they go in and fill in all the holes, make the changes, deletions, and additions based on the legislative session. So there's really not much significant in this particular update, although I will say a couple of these local policies, I've already noticed a couple of things that we will need to tweak. And so next month when we bring them back to you, there will be a couple that will be pulled off, presented separately, and that may be in addition to anything you see that you have questions about between now and then.
Did you say 400 pages?
Oh, at least. You know how those are, Miss Jordan.
Okay. Thank you. Did you have a question? No? No, we're good. All right, so the next item on our agenda is to review and discuss the TASB Leadership Institute. And that was an opportunity for the board and superintendent to go to San Antonio. It was an opportunity for us to learn, to get better at the roles that we currently host and I really enjoyed it. For all of the educational opportunities, I think the thing that I loved the most was being able to move around and learn more about each of my fellow board members. I firmly remember telling each one of them I loved them at the end. That's probably not politically correct, but I felt so close. You weren't listening. You were listening. But I felt so much closer to them after our experience there. But I will tell you that we took a lot of Board Officer Academy classes or sessions, and most of them were pretty good. I really enjoyed some of the general sessions, a lot of inspirational things to bring home. But I will yield the floor and allow whoever would like to go next to talk about their experience. Jeff?
I would, and let me just start with this. The one thing that you get at those, besides all the training, is it's kind of like you don't know how good your own family is until you go to other people's families, and that is the truth. And so I just want to address that, and I thought about this a lot while I was there and on the drive back home because it was a really long drive in the traffic. And that is, where it starts is with the families and the kids at Belton ISD. That is why we're here and what we do. Our teachers are wonderful. We have a great culture. But one thing that I really want to address, because it is a board training, and what we do is we see so many different boards, and we listen to the problems, and we hear the things. And we are truly blessed in Belton to have Dr. Kincannon as our leader. She would not be happy with me singling her out, but you watch these other boards, you watch these other school districts that, 3 to 4 years, superintendents are gone. There is no continuity in their administration. Their teachers struggle, their boards. I talked to many board members who, the truth is she's a great leader not only for the administration, but also for us as a board to tell us these are the things that we need in this school. Because we don't know. As the board, we're the least important of everybody involved, but we really don't know, and she brings that home to us. She has formed an administration that stays together. They work together well. We don't deal with the fights that a lot of them do. And so I'm just really proud of Belton ISD, proud to serve in the capacity that I do, and that is probably the main thing you take away from that when you're surrounded by so many other schools, the pride that we get to take in what this school represents and how good of a job you all have done. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Rosie?
I just want to also add it was a fabulous conference, a great time to be with the board, and just a couple things. I do want to give a personal shout out to Jennifer Ramirez and what she does with special education. And I attended many of those conferences, and I am really looking forward to the new opportunities that are going to be taking place in special education with Senate Bill 11. And I just know that as those changes are recommended, that we'll be in great hands with that. So it's a big part of our school district, and Jennifer's compassion has made that possible. So, and I just would also like to thank Susan for her commitment to this district. We got to go to a book study together, and it was kind of fun because we got to talk about being in small towns and in the culture of Belton and Temple and the love that the community has, but being such a big, fast growth district in a small town and how we're able to still keep just a very friendly culture that's very focused on our kids. So again, kudos to Dr. Kincannon. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
I can't say it any better than Jeff, really, right? I mean, you really don't appreciate what you have until you see other districts and other boards that don't look anything like our board and don't work as well together as we do. And you really do take out an appreciation for what we have, right? Singular focus on the students. I can't say it any better. I mean, for me, maybe I'll change the the course a little bit. I mean, I went to a couple of specific sessions that really intrigued me. And so, the best sessions that I went to, there was a deep dive into CCMR and how that impacts the budget for your potential district. And so maybe in the next agenda item, I'll kind of come back to that. I went to a session on the profile of a graduate. And again, I think that's something I might want to revisit a little bit later, so I'll hold my comments there. I went to a session on the Go Public movement in the San Antonio area public schools, like social media campaign, a positive social media campaign about the benefits of public schools. It unified 17 local school districts together and kind of how they did that. And then also learned a little bit more about some funding options available to help us with energy efficiency and things like that. So those are probably the four most impactful sessions that I went to. But I got to tell you, it's great to be able to interact sort of on a social level, no business, right, with this group up here. You just get so much more out of it. So
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Okay, Janet, let's go next.
Yeah, so Sue and Jeff and I all attended the board officer training sessions for pretty much the whole time we were there, and we had a very entertaining speaker. He kept us, at the time kind of flew, and sometimes the sessions drag a little, but that one was actually really fun. Learned a lot about board procedures and just some little tweaking that we can do to make our board flow easier. And one of the things I realized through that whole process is a lot of what he presented to us is if you have trouble on your board, what to do to if you have difficult board members and whatnot. Well, we've never exercised those muscles, so we don't really have that issue, and I don't think that's been an issue in many, many years. So I think we do really well. A lot of school districts don't send their whole board to that conference at the same time, so we're very fortunate to get to all go and get to know each other and get to learn together, and we come back and regroup and talk about what we learned, and it's great.
Thanks, Janet. Go ahead, Manuel.
And I think Angela can probably attest to this, when you go to one of these legal seminars, you come back thinking, man, I didn't know that, or I didn't know that. I need to quit doing that. But I will tell you that the folks up here are committed to trying to get it right and doing everything we can to get it right, and that's why we do these things. So I wouldn't want to be with any other group of people that had that objective in mind. I'm learning that running a school district is a very complicated process. It has thousands of moving parts and so many dynamics that you just don't know about. When I was listening to Jennifer give her presentation today, this House Bill 3, we have to rely on lots of folks to get it right, for us to get it right, because we're up here setting policy. So you got to know a lot to try and do and get it and get that, those objectives and those goals set up, and then relying on Dr. Kincannon's expertise and getting that process in motion and educating our students. So I just want the public to know that you have a group up here that is committed to that goal. And I really enjoyed socializing with everyone and getting to know everyone more than just doing this. And I think it helps us in our collaborative efforts, as I said a moment ago, because I heard that word so many times in some of the lectures that I went to. And that's what it takes to get things right, is a collaborative effort. It's a joint process between all of us.
Thank you, Manuel. Ty?
Well, being the last, it's hard to follow up and add anything to that. So the whole time I was there, I visit a lot. It's what I do, network, shake a lot of people's hands. And when you go to these sessions and you listen to these people and you're talking to people in the hallways and different things, I'm a big John Denver fan, and one of his best songs was "Thank God I'm a Country Boy." Well, I just keep singing in my head, "Thank God I'm a BISD trustee." So, because we were very lucky.
No, we all have that in our
Yes.
I feel like we're all singing that right. Okay, so next item, issues, concerns for future agenda or administrative reports. Anything on this side? Mr. Chris.
All right, I got a laundry list this time.
You got a laundry list?
No, it's not really that bad.
You want to share it electronic?
No, I've got three items. Three items.
Three
that's it.
items, okay.
Right, so I actually learned a lot from this CCMR session, right, the College Career Military Readiness piece, right? And so I really would like, I know we're getting ready to go into the A through F cycle again, right, with new ratings, right? So I'm really eager to get into another deep dive of that, and specifically to look into the CCMR component in depth, and looking at, I guess there was an estimation tool that we took a look at from TEA, and maybe do a little bit of look at sort of some what-if analysis around, hey, look, if we put some focus here, this is what it does to our ratings, things like that, right? So item number one, kind of looking at the CCMR around the
one item?
A through F. Yeah, that's one item.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. It's only three items, come on. The second part of it was the profile of a graduate, right? And so we might want to explore, is this something that a road that we might want to go down, right? Because I saw the power, right, that we were able to bring to the attendance boundary discussion, right? And so the profile of a graduate essentially is the community coming together to collaboratively define what we want a graduate from Belton ISD to look like when they go out into the world, right? So it's not a board vision, it's not a administration vision, it's not just a community vision, it's everybody's vision, right? Where you have to come together like we did for the attendance boundary discussion to really define as a group, what do we want our graduates to look like when they come out? And so I think it might be worthwhile to at least have the discussion, is this a path we want to go down, right? To help guide the vision going forward. And then the third item is around just the performance management, career development, mentoring process for our staff, right? We talk a lot about the kids, right? But I also want to take a look at the staff, right? And really try to understand, how do we set expectations for our staff? How do we evaluate those expectations for our staff? How do we do career development and get them to the next level, all framed around the fact that we've got a lot of positions to fill, right? In new schools with the high school opening. So really framed around that, right? That's kind of why I'm kind of going there. So 3 short items.
Appreciate that. Anybody else? Go ahead. Dr.
Actually, can you add Senate Bill 11 and how that's going to impact our at-risk kids and the mental health services that we're offering?
Anything on this side? Okay. Well, moving on, future events. I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, okay. So I've got 3 identified. June 25th, special meeting to approve orchestra addition at BHS. We will meet at 8 o'clock in the superintendent conference room. And June 25th, do we have a quorum? I'll be there. 8 o'clock. Okay. And so then on July 10th, the Texas Education Commissioner, Mike Morath, he's going to be speaking at the Central Texas Education Summit at UMHB at 11:30. Please let Connie know if you can attend so she can make those proper RSVPs. And then our next regular board meeting is July 15th. Yes. Okay, anybody else got anything as far as future events? Okay. So at this time, the next item on our agenda is the board will go into closed session to hear and consider a Level 3 employee grievance pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074 and consultation with attorney regarding the Level 3 employee grievance pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071. At this time, the board would now go into closed session. The time now is 7:35 p.m. The board is reconvening in open session at 8:46 p.m. Is the recorder on? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Madam President, I move that the board deny Mr. Corona's grievance appeal and uphold the administration's decision at Level 2.
Thank you. That is a motion by Mr. Norwood. Is there a second? Is there a second by Mr. Tives Haggard? All in favor, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. The grievance is denied. Grievances fail. For the record, this announcement of the board's decision is made in the presence of Mr. Corona. And at this time, this grievance appeal is concluded. Having no further business, this meeting is adjourned.